Yes, it is.
Yeah.
What we doing?
I am Charlie. I'm an editor for independent and self-published fiction authors. I'm a writer of fanfic, fantasy, sci-fi, all things weird and preferably non-human. And of course, I'm a gamer.
I think you're still muted, Calamity.
Gosh, hi, I'm Princess.
It's okay.
Calamity. I've had that moment twice today, though. That's the problem. I have had this moment twice today, and I just don't understand what's wrong with me. Anyway, hi, I'm CKnightWrites. She, they pronouns. I am a game developer, writer, tabletop performer, and producer who just loves doing too many things. That's me.
All right. That's okay. It usually trips people up. I'm XanaBoo13. I go by they, them pronouns. I'm a variety streamer on Twitch, and sometimes I have energy to edit videos for YouTube. That's a recent development, though, so.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go. I'm too socially awkward for this.
Honestly, same. I'm too neurodivergent for this.
I don't take medicine anymore.
Oh, dang. I know that feels though. I know that feels so hard. There is honestly, a lack of representation. In the indie space, I would say they're doing much better than like AAA games for sure. It's starting to get better, but it needs some improvement, and preferably improvement done by non-binary individuals. Because if you want good representation, bring in the people you're trying to represent. Pay them. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same thing, where like it's definitely better than what it used to be, but that also could be me just being like the bar's on the floor, so if they throw me a crumb, I'll be really excited about it. Like, what a delicious crumb. But I can tell it's gonna be, especially with character customizations and new games that are coming out. They've gotten better with like getting rid of like just male, female things and just having you just have sliders. As far as like actual like communities, some of them are still very binary like, and then other gaming communities are like a lot more free. So it just kind of depends on where you are on the internet. And you usually find out really fast if you've gone to the wrong part.
Yeah. I agree completely. And I think as games start to become better representative of who we are, the spaces will follow. I think it sort of has to go in that order, if that makes sense. Those gaming spaces surround the games. That's what we're there for. That's what we have in common. So if we're represented in the games, we're more likely to be welcome and represented in those communities. Mm-hmm. No, we can hear. Oh. I think for me, it has to come down to like 3 super basic things. I want accessibility, representation, and respect. And by that, I mean, if, for example, if something says, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, right there, that space is not accessible to me. That space cannot be comfortable, cannot be safe. They didn't make it accessible. Representation, we've talked about, it's hard to feel represented in gaming spaces when games don't represent me. And then respect, obviously, I think everybody's looking for that. You can tell when you get into a space, Xana talked about this, you can tell really quickly when it's not welcoming. I have ENBY in my handle on just about everything, and so often there's like a switch that goes off. People see that and are like, that's not someone I'm going to interact with. That's not someone I'm going to respect. And that immediately, of course, is going to make someone feel unsafe and uncomfortable. Right.
No, you're fine. That you would pronounce it correctly. You're good.
What about you? What makes a space comfortable for you?
Kind of with Charlie, it's like as long as people keep in mind that it's not just a binary that exists, that usually helps me feel comfortable. If it's a situation where I'm entering in somewhere and it's like maybe they're not used to there being other things outside of the binary, I can get uncomfortable, but as long as they're approaching it with an open mind, then I'm usually okay. One thing that I feel like is kind of, maybe it's just on TikTok, but sometimes I'll be like, I'm non-binary and I like they, them pronouns, and someone will immediately be like, yes, queen, slay. Wow, you're so brave. And I'm like, hey, you said like a lot of things wrong in one sentence. I said they, them, and they're like, oh gosh, like they'll keep going on with like she, her things, which I understand is like people trying to be welcoming, but it immediately is like, I don't feel very welcome. Please stop calling me girl. I appreciate the idea, but man, you really like missed it completely. But yeah.
I would say, at more than anything, just an active decision by the people running it and the people involved to be better and to improve and to listen. I'm part of a group that's called Brown Girl Gamer Code. And as things have kind of come up, especially with like other groups and how they've handled it, they have always sort of checked in with me to make sure that like I feel represented and I feel safe and I feel comfortable. And you know, they're kind of working on ways to kind of change their language so the people who need that space can feel welcome there, if that makes sense. I identify as demigirl, and especially when it comes to Black femme spaces, I feel very comfortable, which is why I am comfortable in that space. That's not going to be the same for everyone, but I think it's that attention to language and continuing to have those conversations. If I see people putting in a genuine and constant effort, I'm much more comfortable because it's very clear when you're sort of brushed off.
We were just talking about how sometimes we check back in with our own friends and our own communities about changes in gender and pronoun, and I think that's a lot like what you're talking about. Even among ourselves and people we know really well, it's important to be active in that. I love the way you said that.
Yeah, there was a moment when somebody addressed the group as, hey ladies, and the leads were like, hey, we do have non-binary individuals in here, just make sure your language is inclusive. And just like that alone was just like, I know I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think still there's pretty rigid binary stuff going on. Like we said earlier, things are coming along. It's still pretty rough though when it comes to certain subjects. One thing's like some of the things I've always is like at any point is like I don't go on like voice chat with people I don't already know, because I know most of the people I'm gonna probably be playing with is still very binary in mindset, and they either know that I sound very effeminate or they think I sound like a 12-year-old boy, and either way I'm not happy in this situation. So there's stuff like that, and like we said, some games are introducing sliders for character customization while other games are still clinging on to like really weird parts of the past. And I think we have a long way to go still, but I think we're going in the right direction slowly. Just hope we can speed it up a little faster, but
Yeah, and games specifically, it's hard because there are so many games that I love with all my heart that do have that problem, you know, that I'm always going to kind of be reminded that I'm not represented. It's like it is for, you know, being a Black person in gaming, any marginalized identity. A lot of these games, you walk into them and it just like kind of reminds you like, yeah, I'm not represented. I kind of tend to give older games a pass, you know, because it's a newer conversation. Some people just don't know, and there is a clear difference of older games to newer games that maybe a same company creates, where in the newer games, yeah, they're definitely going to be more inclusive, but you know, those games, they're not just gonna like throw them away. I get it. So yeah, I think that there can definitely be an improvement. One of my favorite, so I am a character creation, I love it. I have a problem. I love creating characters. And one of my favorites that I think I encountered was actually like Elden Ring. It was very just inclusive, and the options were not gendered, and I could just make a character and didn't have to worry about that. So there are examples out there, so it's very clear that newer games, you can do it. It's not hard. So, but yeah, got a lot of work to do.
I agree all around. I think spaces are still too binary rigid, but that we're probably moving in the right direction. I think it's not surprising that everything is too binary rigid when in so many gaming spaces we're still trying to get to where we need to be with race, and even within the binary genders with sexism. It's sort of feels like we're moving along a path that will involve more inclusion, and in a lot of ways I find that really exciting. The options that we have now compared to when I started gaming, I'm 30 something years old. When I started, it was a mess. We have made huge progress in race and in sexism, and even with non-binary identities. And then I'm also disabled. I look at where we still have to go in terms of that, and I feel like I'm probably going to be too old to use a paddle by the time we have disability inclusion, but we're making progress, you know, and I give credit to the games that are doing it, that are making an effort, especially if they're making like authentic effort instead of like when you can tell they just like wanted to check a box. That for me is worse than just not doing it. Like, I would prefer that you just didn't try than that you did that. Like,
yeah. Don't even give me character customization at that point. Just give me a main character.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I'm Geralt today? Cool. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
It does have a long way to go, and I agree with all or not the Deities here, sorry, that we do have a long way to go. So I know a lot of gaming companies are working on that, and you have come a long way. But getting into that, we hear, what's your favorite male, female character in game? But who's your favorite non-binary character in a video game?
I meant to think about this beforehand because, of course, now I'm blanking. Can I say me? No, I'm kidding. Everything that I get to be myself in. No, I'm kidding. No, I think that there is a game I played called Lifelike, and it's it's a silly game about like appliances that become sentient and like start attacking people. It's great. But the character and the developer was very intentional on making sure people knew that character was non-binary, and just the level, but it wasn't like the main part of, like, they were just non-binary. It was great. Like, it was the kind of representation that I feel we definitely need to see, because they were just there hanging out doing their thing. Like, that wasn't the main plot. Like, their main plot was making sure microwaves didn't kill people. That is kind of like the first one that comes to mind. Just like, yeah, I just have to...
Almost started talking while I was muted. Yeah, this is a hard one. I'm probably too rigid for some people in that, like, if it's not stated that a character is non-binary, then I don't take that as representation. And you can say that they are, but it means nothing to me. So, like, I think of Frisk from Undertale first. A lot of people argue that Frisk is non-binary, and Frisk is adorable, and I love Frisk. But that doesn't do it for me. So trying to, like, come up with an actually, like, canonically non-binary character was so hard. I came down in the end, though, to Primordial Chaos and Hades. Not just non-binary, but bad, which kind of does it for me.
So my favorite, actually, I've been super obsessed with Hollow Knight lately, and the main character that you play as Knight actually is either referred to as they/it, and then Team Cherry on Reddit confirmed that the Knight goes by is genderless, essentially. So that's probably my favorite, mostly because it's a cute little character. It's a little spooky, and it goes by they, them. What more can I ask for? I will say, choosing the Knight out of a list of maybe 10 that showed up on Wiki wasn't super hard. So, you know, that was pretty great. The hardest choice I've had to make lately. So, but yeah, that's probably my favorite non-binary character.
Why is it important for people to understand that non-binary doesn't mean woman-led or anti-feminism? Because people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, so you're anti-feminine or feminism, and it's not that at all. But Charlie,
Other than it just, being incorrect, I think it's most important because when we take that approach to it, we're taking the non-binary identity and forcing it to fit still within that binary. That approach refuses to expand your mind beyond the binary. It refuses to look outside and at other places and ignoring the standard that we've set. I think that for me is the biggest issue with those, that it's just a giant roadblock to getting anywhere and changing binary spaces to be more inclusive and more representative.
I agree. I think the biggest part of making sure you're not trying to associate the binary with non-binary is you're still managing to reinforce the binary within people that don't want to reinforce the binary. And I think it's problematic for, like, so many ways. Like, not only is, like, what Charlie said, it's just straight up wrong, but it's also ignoring all the other genders that are out there too. And I think another thing that people forget is it's not just male, female, non-binary, because it's not like we're a mysterious third gender and we're just not any of these. And there are there's gender fluid people, and then there are like neo-pronoun people and stuff. And not to mention, like, I still feel like it's partially ignoring other cultures that have other different gender identities going on. And so just trying to force one thing into, like, still trying to force it into a binary thing so that you can digest it, I think is doing a lot more harm than good.
Initial question again. My brain decided to let go of it. I'm so sorry. ADHD at its finest. But yeah, what was the initial question?
No problem. I have ADHD, so I understand like so much. Why is it important for people to understand that being non-binary doesn't mean that you're anti-men or anti-women because you're non-binary?
Yeah, kind of like the other two said, we're not some mysterious third gender. It's that I mean, there's non-binary is an umbrella, of course, but to I'm trying to think of how to phrase. Y'all phrased it like so well. Like I can't think of like another way to word it, because you two did say like exactly what it was. But yeah, to be sort of put into this like third box where I don't know, like I'm losing my words now. I'm so sorry. But being put into that third box is just like kind of ignoring the entire definition of non-binary, basically. It's completely like not listening to what non-binary means. And then of course like ignores like other cultures who have like other genders, or people who have no gender. It just kind of excludes a lot of different people, and I can get like wanting spaces for specific types of people, but don't try to say like, oh, I'm going to have this space for women and then anyone who's comfortable can like be here too. That doesn't make me feel welcome. It makes me feel like an accessory that you have to look diverse, if that makes sense.
Hi, everyone. I'm very, very sorry to interrupt. Lexi, you could not be heard at all. So while the answers are being heard to these questions, no one could hear you asking the questions. I don't know if you can see the Twitter messages, but I've been trying to
I don't
help.
have Twitter up right now.
I don't know what you have up. And I'm so sorry. But the questions were not able to be heard in chat, so I'm just gonna go through them really quickly while you fix the mic on your side.
Yeah, either I can turn my mic up or I can just go back through the questions.
Yeah, that's fine. And then on the stream, your face is also cutting off, dear. The like your I'm just letting you know.
Let me fix this real quick.
I'm so sweaty right now, y'all.
I don't blame you. It's hot. Give me a second. But not on stream. Is that better, Emmy? Em. Em. And she disappears. We are back, you guys. Sorry about that. I had to get everything fixed up, but we are good to go. Sorry you guys couldn't hear me asking them questions. But as far as the questions that I asked them and they gave wonderful answers to, I'm going to run back through these questions so you guys know that what we've talked about so far. And if you guys have any questions for them, definitely put it in chat and I will ask them and they will definitely give you guys answers. The first question that I asked was, do you feel represented as non-binary in gaming spaces, whether it be with an organization, a group, friends? Second question I asked is, what makes a space comfortable for them? And then I also asked if gaming spaces are too gender rigid. And basically, what's their favorite non-binary character in a video game? And then also to them, how do they feel about people saying that non-binary is just basically being anti-man or anti-female? And that's the question that we have asked and answered so far. If you guys have any other questions for them, that, like I said, definitely post them and I will get those answers for you guys. Okay, we got much better, wonderful. Cat, yeah, Cat said, we don't fit in any boxes, so don't put me in one. Anything else? Cat asks, would you like to see all types of all types of characters represented, aka non-binary characters that are heroes or villains?
Absolutely. I am just personal preference here. I would prefer villains. Those tend to be my favorite characters. So I would definitely appreciate that. The only thing I kind of don't want to see us go down a road toward would be like all the non-binary characters either being villains or being non-human. As much as I love non-humans, as much as I love robots and monsters and whatever, it sends a message.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I want to see I'd like to see us as heroes and villains and like just like that weird guy that you buy stuff at the merch table or something like that. Like it'd be great just like to have like a whole barrage of different non-binary with us not being humanized enough. I also am like a sucker for a good elf story, or my favorite is probably Double Trouble from She-Ra, whom I'm obsessed with. I watched the entire show very specifically for Double Trouble. They were like my favorite. They were in only 9 episodes, but I watched the entire show for them. And while I love them with all my heart, we probably definitely do need more human representation, so people will stop dehumanizing us, no matter how much I love the elves and everything else and the robots.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just like people are complex, non-binary individuals are going to be complex, so we should be seen in games, in every space just as much as anyone else. We could be the NPC, we could be the hero, we could be the villain, we could be the side character, we could be anything. Of course, I want to see us as heroes, but I love a hero story. How can I say rags to riches type? But yeah, I think that definitely just seeing non-binary individuals is just part of a world, because we are just part of this world. So seeing that representation more in games would be really great.
Another question we got is, how can we support more indie creators who are doing it right now, like who are showing non-binary characters in their games? How do you think we can support them and get them the representation or the audience that they deserve?
Okay, can I start? You're getting into special interest territory. As a game developer, play our games, stream our games, talk about our games, share our games. Definitely try to, make sure. I want to say, make sure that these games are being created with non-binary individuals. I don't want to say like, oh, no one on the team can be like anything else. You're male, female, or anything genderless, but make sure it comes from a genuine place. Make sure it's not a checkbox, like a lot of the stuff we talked about before about how things can just seem like a checkbox, or look at our non-binary people, we're diverse. Make sure it's not like that, but also like a lot of non-binary individuals are unfortunately underpaid. So definitely try to support those creators individually, or teams that actively include those creators. But yeah, play their games, buy their games, hype them up, share them, all of that.
Anybody got anything else to add? We do have.
I think that pretty much covers it. Just hype up as much as you can and share it everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Yeah, I think in general, most of the work in that realm is being done by AAA studios. So if you can find and appreciate those studios and hype them up, yep, that's it.
I had a question or a comment from Nilly Bob. Non-binary is a kind of catch-all term, I think. I describe myself as non-binary so often when I think about the term is better gender fluid, but people don't grasp that. All right, you guys, any more questions out there for them? Let me go through the chat and see if we got anything.
Oh, the cat. I love the owl house. Rain is great. Yeah.
I still have yet to watch that. It's on my list.
Oh, it's so, you gotta. It's great. It's so cute. I haven't finished it, but it's amazing.
Here's so many good things.
Oh, I kind of have a question.
Go ahead.
Possibly. Do you all, because we talked about like favorite characters in video games. It doesn't have to be non-binary, but did you ever have a character when you were growing up where you were like, yes, gender, that character, me, for no reason, like
Link.
Link, yes. It's
Link.
always Link.
It's
I love
Link.
Link. It's always Link.
It's always
Oh my
Link.
gosh, it's always Link.
Corrupted us all.
Yes.
I swear, I've never been more excited than when Breath of the Wild came out, and I could just dress him and whatever, and I was like, yes, this is all I needed in my life.
This is all I wanted.
I just needed Link.
Yeah, Link is definitely like, even when I was younger, they just like, they give him he him pronouns, but like the whole feel of it, you know, and granted, like this is a game started ages ago, and an example of games that like as time goes on make things more inclusive and representative. That's a perfect example. But yeah, Link has always just been very gender for me.
Link is 10 out of 10 gender. Someone said Haruhi from Oron High School, and I agree completely then too. Haruhi's a really good one.
I haven't thought about that in a long time, but it's 100% correct.
Yeah. Haruhi was amazing.
All right, I do have a question. As far as how can binary people support you guys that are not binary in these gaming spaces to make you guys feel more comfortable? I know we talked about what being comfortable in a space is for you guys, but how can we help you feel more comfortable?
I think one of the easiest and most effective ways that in any space binary people can do this is to be inclusive without singling out the non-binary people, if that makes sense. So yeah, when I'm out, I wear a pin that says my pronouns are. And I do that, you know, in public so that hopefully fewer people call me ma'am when I'm just trying to go about my day, which is insulting for so many reasons. But in spaces when people are looking for pronouns and that sort of thing, I find that it tends to only be the people that have said that they're non-binary or that they're trans or that have somehow been clocked. If you can expand that, have everybody give whatever pronouns they're using that day, even if that may change tomorrow, and that's fine. Be inclusive in the same ways for everyone, if that makes sense. You're not inclusive when you single us out with that inclusivity.
Yeah, I think.
Anyone, either one of you guys can go. Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think it's kind of the same as with anyone who needs a space to feel comfortable in. Anyone that's part of a minority group can understand this part. It's like, just listen to us when we point something out. Like, if we're like, hey, that's kind of messed up, don't be like, oh, but they didn't mean it that way, and like start deconstructing why we shouldn't feel the way that we feel. I know it's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction to be super defensive, but I feel like a lot of times people do end up getting kind of lost in trying to defend and tell me that they're a good person, which I'm sure that they are a good person. I'm just trying to point out a way that you can improve stuff, you know?
Good people should always be interested in being a better person. If you're truly a good person, you know you can always do better. Is sort of something I always kind of hold on to. Give us seats at the table. You know, and a lot of, I actually talked about this recently when it comes to Black people in general, but don't just interact with us when we're going through trauma, when we're dealing with something heavy, like when there's some situation where a organization is called out. Don't let that be the only time you interact with and hype up non-binary individuals. Make sure that you are supporting them always, giving them a seat at the table always, because that is when that check mark thing comes back. That's when it feels like a check mark, because it's like, oh, I'm here for the drama, but otherwise I'm not really here to support you. Like, we're people. We want to play video games. We want to chill. Unfortunately, we have to deal with all the mess of society, but we just wanna vibe.
Yeah.
We do have another question. This one is from the cat. We know that Bridges now confirmed a trans girl, and have there been any retroactive inclusion where you were like, oh heck, that makes sense?
That's a hard one. I feel like maybe, I was gonna say, I feel like I had that kind of same feeling where it's like, for myself, where I was like, why was I like this when I was younger? And then I grew up and I was like, oh yeah, that checks out. That makes sense. But I'm trying to think of a way that another time that I've had something similar. What were you gonna say, Calamity?
Oh, I was just like, I have really bad recall. My ADHD popped out, I'm sorry.
You're same.
But I was just, my ADHD brain can't make lists like that. I'm like trying desperately.
So we're all non-binary and we all have ADHD. That's great. We found a connection. This is awesome.
Love this about us.
None of us have full thought processes. Great.
Great. Cannot form a single thought without getting distracted. Got it.
Wonderful.
Excellent invite list here.
Yeah, I guess like a lot of what I can think of is what, like, realizing stuff that I did when I was younger, or moments I had growing up. There's like one that's like on the tip of my brain and I can't like quite pull it out. And I think it was actually a character that kind of made me go, but yeah, I think a lot of the examples I can solidly think of was oh, that's why I did that when I was younger. Oh, that's why I was interested in that when I was younger. Actually, one that I recently had when Oron was brought up, I was like, why am I so obsessed with this show? I don't understand why I keep watching it over and over. What is the draw? And then a few years later, realize I'm non-binary.
Yep.
So it's things like that.
How about you, Charlie?
I mean, very much the same experiences where like you have that sort of light bulb moment. In terms of characters that were like retroactively confirmed, like I said, building lists is not a thing my brain does well on demand. But I will say that I love when it happens. Like we were just talking about Hollow Knight, when in Reddit it was confirmed that Knight is non-binary, I believe. Stuff like that it's just exciting. And in a way, it makes me realize kind of how thirsty for representation I am, because I will jump all over that, and I want to like throw a parade when these things are confirmed. But it's exciting, it's fun, and I think then we get to have those moments of being like, well, that's why I like that character so much.
I think I just remembered one. It's not necessarily non-binary, but is it Sailor Uranus, one of the Sailor Moon characters? Because I remember, like, with the American dub, you think the two were cousins or something, and then I remember when I got a little older and I actually found the actual version, I was like, this makes more sense and makes it so much less creepy. That's one that I just remembered.
They were more interested in making us think they were related, which is terrifying. And yes, that was Sailor Uranus.
Okay, thank you.
I never know how to say that word. But them, yes.
Right, you guys.
No one thought they were cousins. No one.
Yeah. They did say it was Sailor Uranus. No one thought they were cousins. But as far as hold on, do we got anything else? Yes, Legion from Mass Effect is a totally sexy non-binary. I agree.
Yes.
That one.
Oh.
10 out of 10.
If you give me character creation, whatever character I create is non-binary. And it's one of the reasons I love character creation, especially in games where I'm sort of contradicting something that I said earlier, but in games where you can play around with not humanness, like the character that I always go back to in Dragon Age Inquisition looks very androgynous, and it looks exactly the way I want them to. So I don't care what the game says. My character is non-binary.
Yeah. I think that also is kind of important to touch on, like when it comes to stuff like neo-pronouns too, because we've seen like more surfacing of people getting comfortable with neo-pronouns. So I wonder if that's going to be helpful in the future as well for them, or faith them, whichever neo-pronouns they're going to go with that day.
That would be nice to see if they do start to include that more in video games. I can agree. Any other questions, you guys? In chat?
One that just occurred to me is the recent update in Sims.
Just a second. Question we do have is, do you feel like not having a non-binary character in character creation is missing an opportunity, or is a missed opportunity?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true for kind of every identity and marginalization, though. I see so many gamers complaining about like the the skin color scales or whatever they want to call them in a specific game. They don't allow for so much, and it's frustrating because it's a missed opportunity. If you just expanded it a little bit further, and if you just listened to a couple more of the right people, you would be right there.
It kind of reminds me of I think it was Assassin's Creed that had an issue or somewhere where they're like, oh, it's harder to animate effeminate bodies because of jiggle physics or something like really stupid like that was going on. And I'm like, I think if you're having issues including so many different groups and stuff, maybe that's because you're just bad at it and you might need to get better at it. Like, just a thought.
Also, anyone who unironically uses the term jiggle physics needs assistance.
It's just so frustrating that they're like, include people that aren't men. We need jiggle physics automatically. Like,
Can you
why
imagine
do
going
things gotta jiggle?
Can you imagine going into your doctor and they're like, let me take a look at those jiggle physics real quick. I gotta make sure the jiggle physics are correct on the X and Y axis. Yeah, let me write that down.
I will soon be releasing a game called Jiggle Physics.
The only time I accept people using the term jiggle physics is for VTubers. And that is it. They're allowed to use that for me. They can use that because then it makes sense. But do not come at me if you're a developer and say jiggle physics. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I think it's a sign of how far we have to go that we're still having these conversations about like the binary sexes, and we're trying to get them to expand even beyond that. And recently on Twitter, there was a conversation about Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, Rivet, when they were developing her character. I guess there was a question about whether or not Rivet would have boobs. And the women in the room were like, this is an animal. Why are you thinking about boobs on this mammalian creature? Like, it was such a glaring red flag. Like, we're still having a conversation about boobs on little, I don't even, what are little squirrel type things. I don't
do have another question. This one is from Miss Mike. Do you get the feeling that the designers are doing this to make a statement about their beliefs?
Unconsciously, yes. Maybe consciously, but definitely unconsciously, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a thing that exists within biases in general, is no matter what you do, you can't escape your biases, so they're always going to be in your work, no matter what you do. And we really need to like accept that as a fact and just be like, here are the biases. But I do think that's a situation where you need to start looking internally at yourself to figure out why you are putting that out there in the world.
And in development situations, I think it's like Calamity said, where you need to look at the people who are at the table with you and who are doing that with you. If you're going to create a non-binary character, you need to make sure you have people involved to, I guess, the right biases would be kind of the way to word that. It's, you can't rely on yourself to not have any biases and just eliminate them all. You need the right people.
Yeah, fully. Even as
I have been your host, LexytheNOOB. And like I said, I am part of the Athena Alliance. We are a gaming organization for women and non-binaries from the Carolinas. You can definitely check out our website, or if you're following us on social, definitely hit us up. Like I said, other than that, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful evening. But you deities, if you guys want to shamelessly plug yourselves and your Twitch channels and your social medias, definitely go ahead and do that.
Hi, follow me. That's my shameless plug. Try to find me first, but then follow me.
Now it's a game. I love it.
Now it's a game. You gotta earn to be able to follow me. Because I'm never prepared to give you my link.
But yeah, and if you haven't, their socials are popping up in the chat periodically. If you haven't, definitely I recommend you guys follow them and then support them as well. Any other closing words?
Calamity, you were starting to say something earlier, weren't you?
About
I can't remember. I just felt like I heard you start and then then you stop.
I don't remember what it was.
Valid. Understandable.
Has since passed. I guess like if you want to see the things I do, Twitter's going to be the best place. I do a lot of different things in game dev, content creation, tabletop. So if you want to see all that stuff, definitely follow me on Twitter. That's kind of the hub where you can sort of find everything else. But yeah, I'm involved in a lot of different games. I'm doing like an overhaul of my content soon, so I'm excited for that. Yeah, PrincexCalamity on all the things. I got very lucky.
Alright, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon or evening where you guys are. We're out. Bye.